Hello, and welcome to Retro Spectrum, the podcast where we listen to a band's entire discography and then talk about it. I'm Isaiah,
And I'm Holly.
and this week we're talking about the band.
Saves the Day, a mediocre pop punk band from the early 2000s. Buckle up.
Turns out they released a lot more albums than ones that we were aware of, so
A lot more than we may have wanted to listen to.
that's fair, but you know what? We did it anyways.
So, Saves the Day may not be the greatest band in the world, but listening to their entire discography randomly one day is actually what gave me the idea for this podcast. So, at least there's that.
Well, and I had done the same thing with The Clash right beforehand, and I think we were just having a conversation about like, man, we listened to every episode or every song
We
that these
just
bands have put
both
out.
both happened to do that at the exact same time,
Yeah.
and thus this podcast came into existence.
If you'd like to join our descent into madness,
Check us out on social media at Retrospectrum Pod.
or email us at retrospectrumpod@gmail.com.
Just a heads up, we discuss violence against women in this episode, and we will give you a little warning before it begins. So if you want to skip ahead a little bit, you can skip over that, or you can skip the whole episode if that's not your bag. And on to the show.
I'm going to say the starting line at least once while we're talking about this one, or say anything.
Say anything.
Is that the band we're talking about? No, Saves the Day.
No, say anything though. It
You can't talk about that.
We're literally talking about it right now.
No, I know.
I think this is the beginning right now.
We need to say something to say this is the beginning. Watched Oculus today.
I don't think I. Wait.
It's a Mike Flanagan joint. He's the dude that did the Haunting of Hill House.
Oh,
yeah, it's about a mirror. And he did the vampire one that just came out.
It's kind of old, right?
Yeah, like 2015 or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that. What's the vampire one?
Midnight Mass.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I didn't even know it was about
everything
vampires.
He's done. He did Doctor Sleep too. The sequel to
vampires?
He did the sequel to The Shining, Doctor Sleep, which is also really good.
Okay, sick. I mean, yeah, all the Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor. Have you seen those two?
I didn't finish Bly Manor.
I like Bly Manor better.
That's what everybody says, but I just couldn't. We watched like first 3 episodes.
That's what everyone says.
Kind of, yeah, that it's better, but it's also like back end heavy. Like it's like a lot of build up, and then everything goes crazy at the end. Well, I like Hill Houses. It was kind of like creepy throughout. Like
it was terrifying.
Yeah.
And the house was so beautiful. Everything was really beautiful. The costumes.
Yeah, that lady with that broken neck.
The furniture. That I think about very regularly, and it is very upsetting. It's kind of like one of those things that's going to stick in my head forever and always be scary, like the bitch from The Ring. Was it? Yeah, The Ring. Not the bitch crawling out of the TV. That's, scary, whatever. But the bitch in the first fucking scene of The Ring in the closet with the mouth hanging wide open.
That's not the preferred nomenclature.
Closet?
No.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So anyway,
was that the band that we listened to?
Might as well be. Yeah, because when you talk about them, it's like, so anyway.
So anyway.
So anyway.
All right. So Saves the Day. You tell me your origin story with Saves the Day, because
to be perfectly frank,
I think you have
bands,
one.
Well, for most bands, I don't fucking remember because my memory is so jacked. Plus PTSD. It's like brain fog to the max, man. The older I get, I couldn't tell you. But what I do know is I really, really related to them. Specifically, one album. It just really got me going. I think the first album I listened to was Through Being Cool. And then I went back and listened to the first one. And then the next one, the third one came out. And that one just took me away, man.
What time in your life was that when this was when they came out? Like you listened to them new as they were released?
Yes. Well, I know for sure the third album when it was released. I was excited that it was being released, and and I really liked the cover, even though it's just like a fucking field or something. But I just liked the vibe. And the case wasn't the hard plastic. It was like the kind of like a papery outside.
The soft emotional case.
Yes, it probably has a name, but yes, this is a soft emotional case and a hard center to make sure the CD isn't damaged.
All right, I see what they did there. That really makes sense.
Yes. And when that album came out, I don't remember what year it was. Do you have that pulled up?
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah, I was like a freshman or sophomore, and the album came out. I was really excited, and it was one of those where I would like lay in my bedroom floor with my legs kicked up like a slumber party and listen to it and look at the lyrics and and the lyrics, man, that shit was like fucking poetry to me. Like that album is really dark, and so that one really got me going. And I remember like I made multiple art pieces based on the lyrics of that album when I was in high school. So yeah, so anyway, I probably heard of them on their second album and then kept with them for albums after that and then fell off because what year would that have been? I was fucking busy, And I feel like you get to a point often, usually with bands, where you kind of fall off, right?
I mean, not all bands, but this band, I could definitely see that happening. I mean, I think that their target market was you in 10th grade, sitting on your bed, reading the lyrics and thinking about how this was like poetry. You know what I mean?
By far.
I think with
but
that,
honestly,
that was their goal. And then, yeah, but
honestly, those lyrics are pretty fucking deep, bro.
Well, but it's impossible for you to separate yourself from the person who was laying on their bed in 2001, reading the lyrics and thinking they were poetry. Like, being 35 and listening to it now is like,
yes,
it doesn't quite hold the same emotional.
Did you read any of the lyrics?
I can understand most of what he's saying. I speak weird SoCal pop punk accent.
He's not even from SoCal. He's from New
I know.
Jersey.
That's why it's weird that he sings like
that. Nobody wants to hear that Jersey accent in a fucking song.
Tell that to Bruce Springsteen. He's from Jersey, right?
I was born in the U.S. I'm like,
well, he figured out how to.
I can't.
That's another one that if you ever recommend, I'll quit doing this. I'm serious.
Well, when I asked you what bands you absolutely did not want to do, that's who you said.
Yeah,
I think it could be. It could be good.
No, get the idea out of your head. You're gonna have to just.
Hey, listen,
you can
motherfucker.
Do it.
You've made me listen to so many hours of.
You
owe me that many hours of something you don't like.
I did not do that knowing that you didn't like them. That was, or that you wouldn't like them. So
yeah. So what's your story? Did you even like this band ever?
I know the funeral song just from it being on, like, I'm sure it was on comps and stuff growing up, and they're very adjacent to things that I listened to at the same time, like in high school. But they were never a band. There were always those bands that were a little bit too, like, I don't know what the right word is, because I would say like whiny or nasally or whatever, but like I listen to Newfound Glory. Like I was going to say
whiny, but yeah.
I listened to bands that whiny. Sounded like this. This band did not ever grab my attention for the most part. I really think that funeral song was probably my biggest exposure to them, and I really don't like that song.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's annoying. I think it's just.
Do you think you just heard it too many times?
No, I just don't like it. I don't like the instrumentation or the melody. It's not catchy to me. It's like grating, kind of.
It is interesting that was the single, because I felt like there are a lot of other albums or songs on that album that were more catchy.
Yeah. Well, okay. Can we get into that for a second? Did you watch the video? We watched the video for it, right?
Yes.
And it's like the video is him in a house, and it's like this family growing up, and like the kid becoming an adult and like having his own kids and like raising the next generation. And which makes you think like, oh, this song is about like, oh, isn't it sad that this person had this life and now they died and they're gone or whatever. But that's not what that song is about, is it?
It sounds to me like, I mean, he says, at your funeral, I'll sing the Requiem. I'd offer you my hand. It would hurt too much to watch you die. It sounds like a dying family member to me, or like a dying loved one.
to me, it sounded more like a friend or somebody that you knew, but you didn't really. Hang on, I'm gonna go through their lyrics. Like, it sounds like fantasizing about someone dying.
Yeah, and he gets pretty like metaphorical towards the second half. It seems like it's a lot of metaphor, I think.
Okay, here's some lyrics here. And you can bet
I could fucking recite the whole
when
song
we
to
mourn the
you
death of you
verbatim.
that night, they'll lay me on the dinner table. I will be the pig with the apple in my mouth, the food that celebrates your end. Like, it doesn't sound like he's upset that this person died. And I thought
Yeah.
the video did the opposite version of that. Like, it sounds more like kind of like, I'm not going to be that upset when you die, but I'm not going to let you, like, I don't want to be an active part of it. That's the like offering the hand thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that was weird because the lyric, the actual song doesn't seem like it's really like, oh, my friend is
sometimes
dead and I'm sad.
I feel like, yeah, well, okay. First of all, that video sucked. It was fucking, I can hardly remember it because I had such a hard time focusing on it because it was so goddamn boring to me. But maybe that's also related to we watched it in a pixelated form. So I felt like that kind of took away from it for me. And also it was pretty late, so it's kind of hard to say. I should probably rewatch it. I wasn't crazy about it, though.
Yeah, you do that and let me know how it is.
It was boring. I can tell you
But
already.
that's kind of how I feel about that song. I think that song's kind of boring. Which is probably why I was turned off listening to them and why I never really got into them. Because going back and listening to it all, it sounds exactly like a bunch of stuff that I listened to, and I probably would have liked
So
them.
did you like any of it?
Listening to it this time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first album is a little more punk. It's a little harder than...
Yeah, but it's like that punk in the like, it's like power chord punk rock. You know what I mean? Like, it's like skate punk stuff, which I like, but his voice is really make or break. That's you're either going to like this band or not based on his voice. And binging it like this, it was a lot of his singing and their first album sounds like kids. You know what I mean? That's what they were. But it wasn't until like really the third album that there was like, we're gonna not play a power chord, we're actually gonna play some notes and have some melody in there too, which was fine.
Well, he wasn't even playing guitar in the first music video, so he probably wasn't even fucking playing guitar back then,
right?
So you gotta work up to it.
Sure,
guitar is hard.
The first really two albums are great, but they sound really similar. A lot of the songs sound very similar to the songs before and after them. Like, it's hard if you're not paying attention to see one song. Yeah. Which, like, I've shown people like MXPX or whatever, right? And they're like, I don't get it. I don't know what the hook is. Like, I know them because I know all the notes and all the lyrics and all that stuff. And it's like, this made me think of like, oh, it all just kind of blends together and sounds the same. That's how other people hear stuff that I like. That's kind of how I felt about the first two albums. They're not bad. They're just, everything kind of melted together for me.
It's funny that you say that because when you were texting me bitching about the 20-minute song, I didn't even realize there was a 20-minute song because it all blends together.
Well,
and you know what? I actually liked that song.
That is like their first two albums for me. Like, that's kind of how it flows, except it's a little more.
And they're a little longer than 20 minutes. So
exactly. The albums. That's the best thing. That's the best thing is like each album is about like 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's a perfect thing if you just want to put that album on and listen to it and then it's over. But that's not what I did.
It would be a good record
like
play for you.
4 albums in one night and then like 5 albums in the next night. So it was really a binge listen, but it moved very quickly. I did go through the albums a lot quicker.
So the first time I did it was before we knew we were going to do this, I was just doing it for fun for myself. And I listened to all of the albums all in one day because all the first like 4 are pretty short.
Yeah.
And actually since then I went ahead and listened to everything. I listened to the fucking live shit, all the comps, all the everything. I really enjoyed it. I mean, there are some things that I did not like. And it's funny because when I first did my first listen through, I wasn't thinking about this at all. But there was one album that I really liked. And then one album the very next album, I was like, fuck this. I hate this. And I can hardly
tell you
remember
exactly which album that was.
Tell me.
The one in 2006, Sound the Siren or whatever.
Sound the Alarm.
Sound the Alarm. That one it's like that was the same year that the Black Parade came out, My Chemical Romance.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sounds like he's trying to rip off that vocal style, and like the instrumentation is all the guitar chords are like those minor. It just sounds
It
like
reminded me of Brand New.
I know you said that, but it does not. I mean, there's
thought
some
that Sound
stuff
the
in
Alarm and Under the Boards, those two right in a row, 2006, 2007. I thought those had a very Brand New vibe.
Some of them, if you took like some of the Brand New songs, I will give you that. But like,
even
there's
the
not enough
album
variety in there to be Brand New.
They're not as good as Brand New, obviously.
They don't have the range, but there are some Brand New songs that sound like Save Today sounds like.
First content warning, skip ahead 3 minutes.
Speaking of Brand New, both generic white guys that have done hideous things to women.
Yeah, that's, and I think there's a very large conversation to be had about the casual violence towards women in the lyrics of these nerdy little white guys. Like, there's so many songs where it's like, I hope you die, I'm gonna slit your throat, I'm gonna murder you in your sleep, if you die in this plane crash, I hope you sink to the bottom of the ocean. You know, like,
there are many articles written about this specific pop punk.
Yeah, it's not great. And so
and even punk, like so many bands that I love, like the fucking Descendants. Some of the shit they say in their songs is bad shit, man. Well, and it sucks too, because punk rock is supposed to be about, you know, anti-fascist, anti-racist, all that shit. But then a few of the bands kind of fucked it up.
Well, so having a wider view now than I did when I was a kid, it's like, I see why it makes a lot more sense to me why older punks hated this stuff when it came out. Because this is all about like me and my emotions, and all very insular and all shit. Whiny, and a girl was mean to me and I'm sad about it, and I will hope she dies.
Old school punks are like, we're changing the world here,
right? Like, it was supposed to have
you're crying over a girl
exactly.
you can't get a date.
Yeah, you can't get a date because you're a crazy person that fantasizes about murdering women. Like, that probably has something to do with why women
writes about it.
Yes,
to get laid as an attempt to get laid.
Yeah. So
that's the craziest part. Is all these lyrics are so fucked up towards women, and these guys are in bands to get laid. Obviously.
Well, but it's when they all get accused of
laid.
When they get accused of grooming, it's like that's part of the
being a
culture
musician
of that's part of the culture of I think that has something.
You're
I
grooming
think there's
your
something
audience.
to be said for that, but that's part of the culture of this like pop punk movement. Is like, it's all built around not all built around, but there's so much of an element of that, like, be nice to me or I hope you die sort of thing, that it like normalizes it. So then that makes young girls who grow up listening to it think like that's the way that boys are supposed to treat me. And you know what I mean? And you kind of internalize it. It's hard for me to say because I was never a young girl, but it seems like that would make it easier for them to be shitty to women and get away with it, because that's who they are. You know what I mean? They're artistic, and that's how they communicate, and that's how. So when it comes out that they were grooming girls, they're like, you know, we're shitty in relationships or we're bad boyfriends or whatever. It's like, yeah, I totally can see that. Like, in retrospect, it's all,
just go back and look at a few of their songs.
They wrote all about, and I don't want that to sound victim blaming. It's not like, well, you should have known ahead of time or whatever, but it's like, yeah, they have been confessing to it in song form
this whole time.
Yeah, apparently he's a real creep. And he, you know, his statement was that he was an alcoholic and his drinking, and which is like, yeah, great, get that under control, but like,
not an excuse.
Yes, exactly. Like, I think there's still some element of you suck, which made me feel weird listening to all this stuff, like knowing that it's like, there's no way I'm going to get into this band now, you know, like I'm not going to say like I'm a fan of this band because whatever, I can totally live without listening to any of this ever again. And then B, it's like, oh, I found out this guy sucks, I'm gonna go listen to all of his music and like buy all the albums or whatever. And it's like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, I basically just try not to give them money, but you know what, I enjoy listening to this, and you know, it's only a few cents or whatever, but and specifically certain albums I really fucking enjoyed, and their new shit that I had never heard, or their newer albums that I had never heard, I fucking enjoyed some of them too.
Yeah.
I think actually the one that I was talking about earlier that I didn't like was the one after those two, Daybreak, the one with the white.
That was so those three.
My note says trash, annoying, whiny pop shit. That's my
those
note
three
on that
are
album.
apparently a trilogy. Those three albums are supposed to be looked at together. Sound the Alarm, Under the Floorboards, and Daylight are supposed to be
Daybreak and Under the Boards.
whatever.
But yes.
You know what I'm trying to say. You get it.
I can really tell how much you don't give a single fuck about this band.
They're fine. It's fine. Those three albums are supposed to be a trilogy. And the first one, it was all like, I read this interview with him where it was like, he was really trying to find himself and he had some bad things happen and he was struggling with alcoholism and all this stuff. And so the first one was supposed to be like going through the bad stuff. And that's why it's all angsty and I deserve to be dead. And it's all super, hyper violent and all that stuff. Second one is like doing the work of like self-discovery and like digging into your inner psyche and all that stuff. And then the third one is supposed to be
hard and
like,
dark also.
And the third one is supposed to be like, I don't know, self-actualization or like now moving forward, like having dealt with everything and internalized it, like, what do you do now? Which like is cool if that's how that works, but like apparently it didn't work.
It's fucking funny that you say that because that was like what those albums were, because I always tend towards like darker, more moody, like depressing type shit. Yeah. So it's funny that I liked the albums when he was going through a bad time, and then when it was like happier, I fucking thought it was trash.
See, I liked that album more because it didn't feel all that. Those other two, man, just felt like they did not feel sincere. They felt very of a like trying to be a type, like, and it's that My Chemical Romance comparison to me, that it's like, I know My Chemical Romance was way bigger than this band ever was, and it just sounds like they're ripping them off. Like it just sounds like they're aping their sound.
What year did that brand new album come out?
Which one?
The one with the astronaut on the cover.
2004.
So before that.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure they were fucking inspired by Brand New. That's
the
vibe
that's
that I got.
Another thing I was going to say about them. It's like all of their albums sound like the era that they were released in, like the late 90s, early 2001 sound like Drive-Thru Records, all that stuff that was super popular then. And then it went into, honestly, my favorite album of theirs was In Reverie. It's the one right after the
I love that album.
That's my favorite album of theirs. It's the one that also doesn't sound like the rest of their albums almost at all. It's very like, it's like pop rock, almost like a Weezer or like OK Go or something like that. It's poppy. Just pop. Yeah. It's not trying to be, which matches his vocal styling. He's not in like a gruff, he's got a very like.
And I really like the album cover too.
I do too. That was my favorite album of theirs, but it's the only one that sounds like that. And apparently, the reason I asked you if that was the one that like turned you off of them, people didn't like it because it didn't sound like the pop punk stuff.
Like the one before it.
Yeah, so they went like back to.
Well, I thought the one before it was really different than the first two.
It's definitely more produced and a little bit, but it sounds just like the stuff that was being all that Drive-Thru Record stuff, the Starting Line, and that's why I get them confused with all those other bands, is because they all sound exactly the same. So what you're saying
is that they are posers.
I will never. I don't care about that, but I do think they were making albums that were reflective of,
sounded like popular shit,
the stuff that was popular at that time. Yeah, then they did that one, then they did the My Chemical Romance one, then they did the kind of brand new sounding ones, and then they did ones that the later ones sound like them. How did you feel
about the eighth album being self-titled?
But that's like, we're old, but remember when we did that? It's like now they sound like themselves, like they're taking their own sound and sounding like it at that
my
point.
Note on that one literally just says okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And their last one is the whole album is like,
I liked that one,
but it's all songs about like being in a band. It's all like, we're on the road, we're in a band, we're playing a show, we were in a band.
I wasn't super focused on the lyrics on that one. I just thought that it was kind of groovy, and even the 20-minute long song,
that's actually my favorite song. One of my favorite song of theirs, probably my favorite song on that album. The only reason I was annoyed with it being 20 minutes long is it was like getting late, and I was like, I'm gonna do this last album and be done.
Last song.
And man, it burns. You like all the other songs up until then, it's like done. I was like, yes, I got one more left, and then I'm done. And it
like, just kidding.
It's
like the whole rest of the album.
It's half of the album. It's half the album length.
Yeah, exactly.
That one song. So it's like, yeah, these are really flying by, and then that one played. But I actually like that song a lot. It just is too long. And by the time I listened to it, it was not, I didn't want 20 more minutes. You know what I mean?
Right. It reminded me of, probably partially because this is another 20-minute long song of a band, but the No Effects, The Decline.
Yeah, it is. It's like that, but
it really goes places, you know?
there's movement.
And I like that. It's like it's like a story. It's like a fucking film almost, you know? Not visually,
or a
but.
confession.
So back to that. What I will say is, as a teen, I, listening to this shit, I took the shit all in my own lens. Like, those lyrics were about shit I was going through, not about this fucking guy.
Second content warning. Skip ahead 2 minutes.
Can you think of any specific lyrics of his?
The last time that I saw you, August of 99, I should have had a hammer and a few rusty spikes to nail you on a wall and use bottles to catch your blood and display you for the neighbors so they'd know your time had come. Which, I don't know any of the context for that song.
I will say he has a lot of lyrics that say similar shit like that about himself. So it's very just visual and metaphorical for him specifically. Most of these dudes are like, I want to fucking kill you. And it's not poetic or metaphorical at all.
No, the only reason I read that because I pulled a random song up and found lyrics that.
Which song was that?
The last one on the third album.
I think that's a great example. Because, you know, that's pretty graphic.
Yeah.
If you took it literally. But I really do honestly believe that this specific person is a very emo poetry writing motherfucker. And all this shit's metaphorical. But like some of this punk shit, some of this pop punk shit too, it literally is just not even metaphorical or poetic at all. It's just trash saying they want to kill women.
Right,
so
exactly.
At least this guy's fucking making it sound better.
A one-off. I just think there's something to be said for that as a genre like wide choice is not great. And I think under scrutinized. I think everybody just
absolutely
thinks it's fine and moves on.
If you wanted to do research on this, though, there are some really good articles.
No, I'm good. I've already formed all my opinions.
Written by women about male pop punk lyrics.
What perspective
really good.
could they possibly have that I don't?
We'll link in the show notes. So which band or which album do you like the best?
Which album do I In Reverie? That's
In Reverie. Which one do you like the least?
The Sound the Alarm.
Interesting.
That one was like doo-doo.
Didn't see it coming. Okay, well,
Sound the Alarm and possibly their newest one because it was just pointless. Just pointless. Just songs about being in a band.
What would you tell someone to listen to first?
Rufio.
Okay.
Really, like go down Midtown. Honestly, like Rufio or Midtown or some drive-through record stuff. As far as
Google those guys.
As far as introducing people
before you start telling people to do this.
But no, ignorance is bliss.
That's what I'm saying. People could be ignorant to this shit. But anyway, so my favorite album is Stay What You Are, and that's probably because it was my favorite album when it came out.
Which makes sense.
And it really hit me in the guts at the time, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, my art pieces on this were fucking epic.
Yeah, you need to scrounge some of those up.
Oh, I will. I know exactly where they are. And I honestly had planned to have them ready to show you, but I forgot.
Okay, so that's your favorite album. Would you actually recommend this band to people? Like, regardless of all the other context and stuff, like, is there someone that you can think of that doesn't know about this band that you would be like, you got to listen to Saves the Day? This is right up your alley. Other than me, so. I think I'm probably the closest person.
Nah. It's like, okay, this is a band that I love. Like specifically this album, the Stay What You Are album. I love that album. And I love In Reverie. I think those are good ass albums, both of them. Really good and really catchy songs. But they're so specific. Like, I don't really know adults that listen to pop punk either.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is like I like those albums too. But it would be weird to be like, you got to check this out. Like, I imagine like sitting somebody in my car and like playing this now for them in our 30s and being like, you got to listen to this band. And they're like, what's your deal, man?
Yeah.
You know,
no, like now I would not, unless I was having a specific conversation with someone. I can think of one person that he and I have had like specific talks about certain kinds of music that have led me to tell him about certain bands like the Mountain Goats, for instance. So if we're talking about something specific that leads to that, like if somebody's talking about how they like pop punk, for fuck's sake. And obviously that would be like a male our age probably would be the only person that I would have that conversation with.
But it's again, I feel like it's like if they like that music at that time, they probably already have heard this band and either made their decision about them.
Well, you'd heard of them, but you didn't really give a shit or really even look that much into it, right?
Yeah.
And you had never heard In Reverie, and that was your favorite. So there you go. But just, I think I would tell someone about them if we were having a specific conversation that led to that, and like as just like for educational purposes, kind of, or like check this out. You might, I don't know. It might be similar to this other band, your nostalgia going down this train.
Right, yeah.
But honestly, I feel like bands like this that are objectively okay. The Clash changed the fucking world, right?
Yes, yeah.
Nobody's talking about Saves the Day right now.
Yeah.
Most people don't fucking know who this band is.
Yeah, the cultural
and there's a reason.
Is a lot lower. And I think in general, it's like a good question. Like, does it hold up? You know? And it's like, not saying it wasn't great at the time and not saying you didn't like it then and not saying you can't enjoy it now.
If I were going to recommend one, it would be either Stay What You Are or In Reverie.
I would probably do one of those two for sure.
Stay What You Are is dark and like super poetic. And if you're in a bad way, like if you're really depressed or something, that would probably hit you in a good way. Like that's what happened to me as a child, a teen. In Reverie is just kind of poppy and happy, and there's a couple like really good catchy songs, but you know it's not really worth telling a bunch of people about. I'm not going to shout it from the rooftops or anything. I mean, I couldn't even fill up a whole page of notes on these fucking guys.
Like think of like your coolest friend that's like
that's you, man.
Okay. Think that's that. Talk about depressing.
Also, no wonder, only friend.
No wonder you have been depressed your entire life.
We have been friends since we were 11,
yes.
So this could be a link.
Sorry about that.
No, I have some
but
cool
you know
friends,
what I mean, like people that you, maybe not friend, but like people that you think are cool. Imagine them walking into a room with you, like jamming this out. How do you feel?
I had my dad walk in the room when I was jamming this out earlier, and I quickly turned it off.
It does. It tells me exactly what I'm looking for.
My dad.
Yeah. So. It's like
I don't give a fuck what he thinks.
But you didn't.
It's like I'm trying to impress him.
You didn't want him to know. Yeah, so that's I think that's kind of it. It's like it's of a time. I think it's a good. I really do. If anything to say about this band, I think they're a very good snapshot of what was happening at the specific time that all their albums came out. It's like they may not have been the best of any of those genres, but I do think they spanned all those genres and had a good sample.
I also listened to the Bug Sessions. It was that three albums of live. It was basically like live acoustic situation. And it was very like Dashboard Confessional vibe. But Dashboard Confessional's lyrics are not as good as this motherfucker's lyrics. His lyrics are better. Dashboard Confessional is way cheesier and way whinier lyrically. Like Chris Carrabba is a crybaby, not in a way where I'm making fun of him. Not like, I can't get a date. But like, just like he's an emotional sounding guy. But I feel like this guy is just way more poetic, and I think his lyrics are really beautiful in some places.
I didn't go that deep down that rabbit hole. I mean, I believe you. I think so. This is a weird delivery system for poetic lyrics to a certain extent.
Yeah, pop punk especially.
Because it's breezed past, like it all moves pretty fast. I mean, a lot of songs are less than 3 minutes long.
Right.
Which again, positive. I'm not trying to be super negative. It's not.
No, I think it's great.
It's not. I don't feel particularly negative. I just feel kind of I just feel kind of baseline.
Anyway, so I think this band's all right.
I think they're fine. I do. I mean, I think they're.
Final thoughts. They're all right.
I think they're emblematic of the pop punk stuff. And if you like that, you'll like this. If you don't, they're not going to be the ones to convert you. And, there may be some songs worth pulling out and, making that comp playlist or whatever. But I don't know that I'll go through the entire discography again ever.
I don't think I will either. It was a
bit much.
It was homework, that's for sure.
It really, I mean, there was a progression. It was not the same thing the entire time. It changed throughout the years. It just,
yeah, honestly, the first time I listened all the way through, I really enjoyed it. And that was because I wasn't thinking too much about it, because I was just working on the bus that day, like just chilling out, doing my thing. Didn't even know we were going to do this podcast at that time. So I was just doing it for fun and enjoyment. And I really did enjoy it. And it was fun to see how the band changed over time and how they progressed. And it was cool the first time. The second and third times were less fun for me. Yeah. Although every single time, the fucking album that I really like, Stay What You Are, every time that plays, I fucking belt all those goddamn songs. They're so goddamn good. And that album specifically has violent imagery towards himself a lot. And so that's just real relatable to me.
Yeah. Well, and I don't have any of those hallmarks for any of the songs. Right. And so it's a lot easier for me to just be like, and go listen to stuff that is more like what I normally listen to.
Right.
So if you're a sophomore in high school
highly
that has an emotional sensitivity, then this music might be for you.
So that's the band. Saves the day. We did it. It's over. Thank God.
Did, for better or worse.
We learned something probably.
And, I think as we dig into bands pretty often, I think we're going to find maybe some unsavory things, or that the people in the band are not the greatest people in the world. And they're definitely not role models, and you're not condoning any of their behavior.
We definitely don't want to be flippant about that.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's about the music. It's not about the shithead artist necessarily, although we will not ignore that. We will acknowledge when the artists are shitheads.
Yeah, in this case, it all sucks.
Some people might like this music, okay?
So I am curious, like, I'm sure that many people listening grew up in a similar time that we did. If you have a connection to this band, or if you have some stories, reach out to us either on social media at Retrospectrum Pod, or, shoot us an email with your stories or perspectives or whatever at retrospectrumpod@gmail.com.
Subscribe on all podcasting platforms and rate us 5 stars.
And don't forget to look us up on Patreon, where we are still running our early adopter promotion. The first 25 followers will be grandfathered into all future promotions. Pretty good deal, if you ask me.
So are you ready to hear about what band I want to add to this week's Wheel of Death?
Let's do it.
So we make a bunch of jokes in this episode about a bunch of pop punk bands that have similar sounding names to this band. And so I'm going to go with Say Anything. They have way too many albums, and I'm going to hate it.
Okay. I'm going to try to remember which one you mentioned, but I'll go ahead and write down Say Anything, just so I don't accidentally listen to all of
The Starting Line.
Yeah, or something corporate or something. All right. Yeah, honestly, after listening to this, I'm good on any band that reminds me of this band for a minute. So yeah, Wheel of Death appropriate, I would say. I think we have sufficiently talked about Saves the Day as much as I am ever going to. So are you ready to kind of look forward into the next band that we'll be digging into?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. Now, I know you abbreviated this band STD in your notes.
Correct. My notes are riddled with STDs.
The next band very commonly goes by an acronym as well. In fact, TMBG. We are going to be listening to every album released by They Might Be Giants.
I understand why it's an acronym. That's a long band name.
Oh, you think the band name's long, buddy? Wait till you see how many albums they've put out.
I hate you already.
Well, that is only going to get worse. So I would recommend starting now. We'll be releasing the TMBG episode in 2 weeks. That's about 3 or 4 albums a day between now and then. If you want to keep pace, good luck.
Good luck.
That's all I have to say.
Trust me.